What happens when one of Britain's most beloved actresses walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a warm welcome, only to be blindsided by a host who seems determined to tear her down on live television? In just 35 seconds, a simple question about her latest film turned into the most shocking meltdown in loose women history, and it all came crashing down when Denise Welch made one comment too many that crossed every line imaginable. Emma Thompson arrived at the ITV studios that morning with a smile on her face, ready to talk about her new movie and share some laughs with the panel. She had been a guest on Loose Women before, and it had always been lighthearted and fun. But today was different. Today, something in the air felt off from the moment she sat down on that famous couch. Denise Welch opened the interview with what seemed like a standard greeting. "Emma Thompson, everyone. Lovely to have you here," she said, though her tone carried an edge that immediately caught Emma off guard. The audience clapped politely as Emma settled into her seat, adjusting her colorful scarf and beaming at the panel, which also included Ruth Langsford, Janet Street Porter, and Kay Adams. "Thank you for having me," Emma said warmly. "It's always such a treat to be here with you all." But before she could even finish her sentence, Denise cut in. "Well, we'll see about that, won't we? Depends on whether you actually give us something interesting to talk about this time." The other panelists exchanged uncomfortable glances. Ruth Langsford shifted in her seat, clearly sensing the tension. Janet Street Porter raised her eyebrows, but said nothing. Kay Adams forced a smile, trying to keep things light. Emma laughed it off, assuming it was just Denise's particular brand of humor. "I'll do my best," she said graciously, "though I'm sure you'll make it interesting no matter what I say." "Let's talk about your new film then," Denise said, leaning back in, her chair with an air of superiority. "Another one of those period dramas where you play a posh woman in a big house, is it? How original." The audience went quiet. Emma's smile faltered for just a moment before she composed herself. "Actually, it's a contemporary thriller," she explained calmly. "I play a journalist investigating corruption in the pharmaceutical industry. It's quite different from anything I've done before. The script really challenged me in ways I hadn't expected." "Oh, how very noble of you," Denise said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Playing a journalist? Because that's what the world needs right now. Another actress pretending to be hard-hitting and serious. Tell me, did you do any actual research, or did you just wing it like most of you lot do? I mean, it's all just pretend anyway, isn't it?" Emma maintained her composure, though a flicker of irritation crossed her face. "Well, I wouldn't call it winging it, no. I actually spent quite a lot of time preparing for this role." "How much time?" Denise interrupted. "A week? 2 weeks? Because real journalists spend years learning their craft. Years fighting to be taken seriously in an industry that chews people up and spits them out. But I suppose you can just waltz in and play one for a couple of months and think you understand their world." The other panelists were visibly uncomfortable. Ruth Langsford cleared her throat nervously, while Janet Street Porter frowned deeply, clearly not approving of Denise's approach. Ruth Langsford finally spoke up, trying to redirect the conversation. "I think what Denise is trying to say, perhaps not in the best way, is that we're curious about your preparation for the role. It sounds like a challenging part, Emma." "Thank you, Ruth," Emma said, clearly grateful for the intervention. "Yes, I spent several months shadowing real investigative journalists. I sat in on editorial meetings. I watched them conduct interviews. I even went out on a few assignments with them. I wanted to understand their world, their challenges, the risks they take to uncover the truth. It was an incredible learning experience, and I have so much admiration for what they do." "Several months," Denise repeated mockingly. "How wonderful for you. Must be nice to play pretend for a few months and then go back to your mansion while real journalists are out there struggling to make ends meet, working ridiculous hours, dealing with threats and intimidation. Do you think that makes you one of them? Do you think you actually understand what their lives are like? Or is this just another box to tick on your way to another award? Janet Street Porter interjected, her voice firm. Denise, that's a bit harsh, don't you think? Emma's just explaining her process. I'm just being honest, Denise shot back. Unlike some people who sit here and pretend everything is lovely all the time, someone has to ask the real questions. Emma took a deep breath, maintaining her composure with remarkable grace. I don't claim to fully understand what journalists go through, she said carefully. That's precisely why I did the research. I have enormous respect for their work, and I wanted to honor that in my performance. I'm not trying to diminish anyone's real-life experience. Well, isn't that big of you? Denise said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Emma Thompson, the great savior of journalism, here to show us all how it's done. Tell me, how much are you getting paid for this role? I bet it's more than most journalists make in a year. The studio audience was visibly uncomfortable now. Some people were whispering to each other. Others were staring at Denise in disbelief. Kay Adams tried to step in. Perhaps we should talk about the actual story of the film, she suggested. It sounds really compelling. Why? Denise snapped at Kay. So Emma can give us some rehearsed talking points about how important the film is. I'm tired of celebrities coming on here and expecting us to fawn all over them. This is Loose Women, not some promotional platform where everyone gets a free pass. Emma's expression shifted. The warmth was gone, replaced by a steely determination. I'm not asking for a free pass, she said, her voice calm but firm. I came here to have a conversation, not to be attacked for doing my job. If you have genuine questions about the film or my work, I'm happy to answer them. But this, whatever this is, isn't productive. Oh, here we go, Denise said, rolling her eyes dramatically. The actress is upset because someone dared to challenge her. Can't handle a bit of honest conversation, can you? This is exactly what's wrong with your industry. You all live in this bubble where everyone tells you how brilliant you are, and the moment someone questions you, you fall apart. Ruth Langsford looked horrified. Denise, please, she said quietly. This isn't fair. Fair? Denise laughed bitterly. What's not fair is people like Emma Thompson lecturing the rest of us about how the world works when they've never had to worry about paying their bills or keeping a roof over their heads. What's not fair is actors getting paid millions to pretend to be real people who are actually suffering. Emma stood her ground, refusing to be bullied. I have never lectured anyone, she said, her voice rising slightly. I have never claimed to have all the answers. I'm an actress. I tell stories. That's my profession, and I'm proud of it. I don't think that makes me better than anyone else, but I also don't think it makes me a target for your contempt. My contempt? Denise scoffed. You want to talk about contempt? How about the contempt your industry shows for ordinary people every single day? How about the contempt of actors who swan around pretending to care about social issues for 5 minutes before going back to their privileged lives? Janet Street Porter had heard enough. Denise, you're completely out of line, she said sharply. Emma came here as a guest, and you're treating her abominably. This isn't what we do here. But Denise ignored her, her focus laser sharp on Emma. You know what I think? I think you're only doing this film because it makes you look good. I think you don't actually care about journalism or corruption or any of it. I think it's just another vanity project for you to add to your collection. The audience gasped. Several people started booing. This had gone way beyond uncomfortable television. This was a full-blown ambush. Emma's patience finally broke. How dare you, she said, her voice shaking with controlled anger. You don't know anything about me. You don't know what I care about or why I chose this project. You've decided to make me the villain here because, what, you're having a bad day? Because you need someone to take your frustrations out on? I'm making you the villain? Denise laughed mockingly. You've done that all by yourself. You and your kind, with your awards and your accolades and your self-importance. You're all the same. You think you're above criticism. I don't think I'm above criticism, Emma replied, her voice steady now. But there's a difference between criticism and cruelty. There's a difference between asking tough questions and being needlessly hostile. And you, Denise, have crossed that line repeatedly in the last few minutes. Kay Adams reached out toward Emma, trying to calm the situation. Emma, I'm so sorry about this, she said sincerely. This really isn't how we usually do things here. Speak for yourself, Denise interjected. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'm not some sycophant who's going to sit here and blow smoke up a celebrity's backside just because they've deigned to grace us with their presence. Ruth Langsford looked close to tears. Denise, stop it. Just stop. This is cruel and unnecessary. Oh, Ruth, always the peacemaker, Denise said dismissively. Always trying to make everyone happy. Well, I'm not interested in making anyone happy. I'm interested in the truth. The truth? Emma said, her voice incredulous. You haven't asked me one truthful question. You've just hurled insults and made assumptions. That's not truth. That's just cruelty, dressed up as honesty. Denise stood up now, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You want cruelty? Let me tell you about cruelty. Cruelty is actors making obscene amounts of money while people are struggling to feed their families. Cruelty is celebrities flying around in private jets and then lecturing us about climate change. Cruelty is people like you pretending to understand the real world when you haven't lived in it for decades. I never said I was perfect, Emma said, standing to face Denise directly. I never claimed to have all the answers, but at least I don't use my platform to tear people down for no reason. At least I don't mistake aggression for authenticity. The other panelists were frozen, unsure how to intervene. The producers were frantically signaling from off camera, but Denise was beyond anyone's control now. You think I'm being aggressive? Denise said, stepping closer to Emma. This is nothing. This is me being polite. You want to see aggressive? Try living in the real world for 5 minutes. Try dealing with real problems instead of your first world actress anxieties about which designer dress to wear to the next award show. Emma's eyes flashed with anger, but she kept her voice calm. I don't know what happened to you to make you this bitter, she said quietly. I genuinely don't, but it's clear that this has nothing to do with me or my film. You're angry about something deeper than anything we're discussing here, and you've decided I'm a convenient target, a symbol of everything you resent, but I won't be your punching bag. I won't sit here and let you project all of your frustrations onto me. Bitter? Denise practically shouted, her face flushing red. You think I'm bitter? I'm realistic. I'm honest. I'm everything your industry isn't. You're all fake, every single one of you. Fake smiles, fake concern, fake everything. You go to your premieres and talk about caring about the little people, but do you really? Or is it all just part of the performance? That's incredibly unfair, Emma said, her voice rising. You don't know me. You don't know what I do with my time, my money, my influence. You've decided I'm some heartless celebrity based on nothing but your own prejudices. Oh, I know enough, Denise shot back. I know you live in a world removed from ordinary people. I know you make more money for one film than most people make in a lifetime. Kay Adams stood up. Okay, let's take a breath. This has gotten too heated. But Denise wheeled on Kay. Don't apologize for me. I'm saying what needs to be said. Asking questions is one thing, Janet interjected sharply, standing. Being cruel is something else. What you're doing isn't journalism. It's just nasty. She doesn't deserve it, Denise said. Why? Because she's famous. That doesn't make her special. I'm not asking to coast through anything, Emma said, her voice trembling. I came here to talk about my work. If you wanted to challenge me, I would have engaged. But you're just attacking me personally. Because I'm sick of it, Denise exploded, standing so forcefully her chair rolled backwards. I'm sick of actors being treated like they're better than everyone. I'm sick of them being coddled. I'm sick of watching them get richer while ordinary people struggle." The audience was completely silent, everyone stunned by the raw anger in Denise's voice. Even the crew had stopped to watch. Ruth Langsford stood up slowly, tears streaming. "Denise, I understand you have strong feelings about inequality, but Emma hasn't done anything to deserve this." "Call it honesty," Denise said defiantly. "Call it someone having the courage to say what everyone thinks." "No one is thinking this," Janet said firmly. "They think you're being a bully." "Being real doesn't mean being mean," Emma countered, her own voice gaining strength again. "Being honest doesn't require being hurtful. You can speak your truth without trying to destroy someone else. You can ask challenging questions without resorting to personal attacks and baseless accusations. That's what separates good interviewers from bad ones. That's what separates people who genuinely want to understand from people who just want to tear others down." Janet Street Porter stood up as well, positioning herself between Emma and Denise. "That's enough," she said firmly. "Denise, sit down. Emma, I apologize on behalf of all of us. This is not okay." But Denise wasn't finished. "Don't apologize for me," she snapped at Janet. "I don't need you or anyone else speaking for me. Emma Thompson can dish it out in all her films and interviews, looking down her nose at everyone, but she can't take it when someone calls her out." "I have never looked down on anyone," Emma said, her voice breaking slightly. "I have spent my entire career trying to use whatever platform I have for good. I've supported countless charities. I've fought for causes I believe in. I've tried to be a decent human being. And I come here today, excited to talk about a project I'm passionate about, and you've turned it into this horrible spectacle." The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Some people had their hands over their mouths in shock. Others were shaking their heads in disapproval, clearly directing their anger at Denise. Ruth Langsford stood up, tears actually streaming down her face now. "Denise, please," she begged. "This needs to stop. You're hurting someone who doesn't deserve it. Whatever you're going through, this isn't the way." "Oh, save your tears, Ruth," Denise said coldly. "I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking, but is too scared to say. Emma Thompson isn't a saint. She's an actress who's made a fortune playing make-believe, and now she wants us all to celebrate her for doing a job that millions of people would kill to have." Emma picked up her handbag from beside the couch, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't need to be celebrated," she said quietly. "I just wanted to be treated with basic respect. Clearly, that's too much to ask from you." Denise laughed harshly. "Respect has to be earned, darling. You can't just demand it because you've won some awards." "I'm not demanding anything," Emma said, her voice breaking completely now. "I'm simply refusing to sit here and be verbally abused by someone who seems to take pleasure in making others feel small." Kay Adams moved toward Emma, reaching out to touch her arm gently. "Emma, please don't go," she said softly. "We can continue the interview without all of this." But Emma shook her head, tears now visible in her eyes. "No," she said firmly. "I won't stay somewhere I'm not wanted. I won't subject myself to this kind of treatment, on camera or off." "Good," Denise said spitefully. "Leave then. Run back to your comfortable life and your comfortable friends who will tell you how wonderful you are. But don't come crying to us when the real world doesn't worship you the way you think it should." Emma turned to face Denise one last time, and when she spoke, her voice was filled with a sadness that cut through all the anger. "I feel sorry for you," she said simply. "I really do. Because whatever pain you're carrying, whatever makes you lash out at people like this, it must be exhausting. I hope you find peace. I genuinely do." Those words seemed to hit Denise harder than any angry retort could have. For just a moment, her mask slipped, and something vulnerable flashed across her face. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by defiance. "Save your pity," Denise said, but her voice lacked the venom it had carried before. Emma looked at the other panelists, her expression softening. "Ruth, Kay, Janet, I'm so sorry you had to witness this," she said sincerely. "You've always been nothing but kind to me, and I appreciate that more than you know." The three women nodded, Janet wiping at her own eyes, Ruth openly crying, and Kay looking absolutely devastated. Emma turned toward the audience, many of whom were standing now, some clapping in support. "Thank you all for being here," she said to them. "I'm sorry you had to see this. I hope you'll still go see the film. The people who made it poured their hearts into it, and they deserve your support." The applause grew louder, drowning out whatever Denise might have said. Next. Emma gave a small, graceful bow, then turned and walked toward the exit, her head held high despite the tears on her cheeks. As she reached the edge of the set, one of the producers rushed forward, clearly panicked. "Emma, please, can we take a break and start over?" Emma stopped and turned, looking back at the scene behind her. Denise, still standing there defiantly. The other panelists in various states of distress, the audience murmuring among themselves, the cameras still rolling, capturing every moment of this disaster. "No," Emma said quietly but firmly. "Some things can't be fixed with a break and a fresh start. Some damage is done, and all you can do is walk away with your dignity intact." And with that, Emma Thompson, one of Britain's most celebrated actresses, walked off the Loose Women set, leaving behind a stunned silence and a host whose cruelty had finally gone too far. Denise slowly sat back down, looking around at her fellow panelists, at the shocked audience, at the cameras still recording her every move. For the first time since the interview began, she seemed uncertain, as if she was only now realizing the magnitude of what she had done. Janet Street Porter stared at her with undisguised disgust. "I hope you're proud of yourself," she said coldly. Ruth Langsford couldn't even look at Denise, her face buried in her hands as she continued to cry. Kay Adams addressed the camera directly, her voice shaking. "We need to take a break," she said. We just need a moment." But before they could cut away, Denise spoke one more time, her voice smaller now, almost uncertain. "I was just trying to ask real questions," she said, but no one was listening anymore. The audience had turned their backs on her. The other panelists were walking off the set. The producers were scrambling to contain the fallout. And somewhere outside the studio, Emma Thompson was getting into her car, wiping her tears, and driving away. From what would become the most talked about moment in Loose Women history. Not because of anything she had done wrong, but because she had done everything right. She had stood up for herself with grace and dignity, even in the face of unprovoked hostility. She had refused to sink to someone else's level. She had walked away when staying would have meant compromising her self-respect. Before Emma could take another step toward the exit, Denise called out to her. "That's right. Walk away. That's what people like you do when you can't handle the truth." Emma stopped, but didn't turn around immediately. She stood there for a long moment, her back to the set, clearly struggling with whether to respond. The audience held its breath. Finally, Emma turned around slowly. "The truth," she repeated quietly. "You keep talking about the truth, Denise, but you haven't spoken one word of truth today. You've spoken your anger, your resentment, your pain. But truth requires honesty. About yourself, not just others. Truth requires seeing people as they actually are, not as projections of whatever you're fighting inside your own head." Denise opened her mouth to respond, but Emma held up a hand. "I'm not finished. I've sat here and listened to you. The least you can do is listen to me for 1 minute." The studio was utterly silent. "You say I don't understand the real world," Emma continued, walking slowly back toward the set but not sitting down. "You're right. I don't understand your world, your experiences, your struggles. How could I? We're different people who have lived different lives, but I have never claimed to understand everything. What I have done is try to listen, try to learn, try to be better. She looked directly at Denise now, her eyes glistening. But you haven't tried to understand me at all. You've made assumptions. You've decided who I am based on what you think people like me represent. You've taken all of your frustrations with the world and put them on me. And that's not fair. Ruth Langsford had stopped crying and was watching Emma with something close to awe. Janet Street Porter nodded slowly. I came here today in good faith, Emma said, her voice strengthening. I came here to share something I care about, and you've punished me for that. You've punished me for being successful, for being privileged, for things I can't change. But I've tried to use that privilege for good. I've tried to lift others up. I've tried to make a difference. Anyone can say that, Denise interjected, but her voice had lost its edge. Yes, anyone can say it, Emma agreed. But I've actually done it. I've supported causes, fought for change, used my voice for people who don't have one. And I don't usually talk about it because I don't do it for praise. I do it because it's the right thing to do. She paused. But standing here right now, being attacked for no reason, other than I happen to be successful, I think maybe I should talk about it. Maybe people should know that not every actor is the shallow caricature you've painted me as. The audience erupted in applause. Emma acknowledged them, but kept her focus on Denise. Denise looked down at her hands, and for the first time since the interview began, she seemed small. The confidence that had fueled her attacks had evaporated. I'm sorry, Denise said quietly. Emma shook her head. I don't think you are. Not yet. I think you're sorry this didn't go the way you wanted it to. That's not fair, Denise protested weakly. Isn't it? Emma challenged. Have you actually thought about what you said to me? Have you considered how it would feel to be in my position, coming onto a show you've been on before, expecting a friendly conversation, only to be ambushed with hostility? Have you put yourself in my shoes for even 1 second? Denise didn't answer. This is what bothers me most, Emma said. You had an opportunity, today, to have a real conversation. You could have asked me challenging questions about wealth inequality. You could have pushed me to think harder about my blind spots. Those would have been interesting, valuable discussions. But instead, you chose cruelty. You chose personal attacks. Janet Street Porter stood up and started clapping, joined by the rest of the panel and the entire audience. The sound was deafening. Emma waved her hand as if to quiet them down. Please, she said. I'm not looking for applause. I'm looking for just a little bit of understanding, a little bit of kindness. She turned back to Denise one last time. I hope you figure out whatever is making you so angry, she said softly, because this isn't who you have to be. You have a platform that could be used for so much good, but today, you used it to hurt someone who never hurt you. The interview that was supposed to be a simple promotional appearance had turned into something much bigger. It had become a moment that revealed character, both good and bad. Emma Thompson had shown the world what grace under pressure looks like, and Denise Welch had shown what happens when bitterness and entitlement are given a microphone and an audience. Back in the studio, as the crew managed to cut to commercial, an eerie quiet settled over the set. The other panelists wouldn't speak to Denise. The audience was filing out, shaking their heads. The producers were huddled together, trying to figure out how to handle the situation. And Denise sat alone on the couch, still defiant on the surface, but with something in her eyes that suggested she knew she had gone too far. That she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. That in her attempt to be provocative and honest, she had simply been cruel. The cameras were off now, but the damage was done. Every word had been captured. Every insult, every jab, Every moment of Emma's pain and Denise's spite. It was all there, recorded forever. A testament to what happens when someone mistakes meanness for authenticity.